The Awakening. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zaxran entered. The towering Viridian's obsidian scales glistened under the chamber's lights, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. For 3 centuries, these diverse species had maintained what they called the Great Peace, an era of unprecedented cooperation and prosperity across known space. Esteemed council members, Zaxran began, his voice resonating through the chamber. I bring troubling news from the Outer Rim. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity in the Dead Zone. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Dead Zone, that empty region of space where 300 years ago, the combined fleets of the galaxy had driven the last remnants of humanity to their extinction. Or so they believed. Impossible, declared Miraloth, the Alarian ambassador. Her translucent skin pulsed with blue light, a sign of distress among her kind. That region has been dormant since the Great Purge. Nothing survives there. Nevertheless, Zaxran continued, our sensors detected energy signatures, familiar energy signatures. The council chamber erupted in chaotic discussion. Everyone knew what familiar meant, though none dared speak it aloud. Humanity, the species that had nearly conquered half the galaxy before the Allied forces pushed them back. The species that had fought with such ferocity that the Council had been forced to enact the only genocide in galactic history. High Chancellor Preltox, the ancient Dorthan who had led the Council for nearly 2 centuries, raised a gnarled hand for silence. Admiral, are you suggesting that humans have returned? After 300 years. I am suggesting nothing, Chancellor. I am reporting observations. We have dispatched a reconnaissance fleet to investigate further. At the far edge of the chamber, Ambassador Krim of the Solus Collective leaned forward. The Solus were known for their analytical minds, their logical approach to all matters. If humans survived, where have they been? And more importantly, why return now? No one had an answer. But deep in the recesses of every council member's mind lurked the same terrifying thought. What if they've come back for revenge? Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge of the Retribution, Earth's flagship, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy. 300 years of exile. 300 years of rebuilding, researching, and preparing. Now they were back in familiar space, the vast expanse that had once been humanity's playground before the betrayal. All ships reporting ready, Captain, said Commander Jackson, her second in command. Fleet is in formation and awaiting your orders. Ilara nodded, her gray eyes never leaving the display. She was 5th-generation exile-born, raised on stories of Earth's golden age and its subsequent fall. Every human child grew up learning about the Great Betrayal, how the alien races, once humanity's allies, had turned against them in a coordinated attack, how billions died in the initial assault, how the remaining millions fled to uncharted space, presumed dead by their enemies. But humanity hadn't died. They had survived, hidden in the darkness between galaxies, a place so remote and hostile that no alien species had ever thought to look there. In that void, they had rebuilt, evolved, and advanced beyond anything their ancestors could have imagined. Begin Phase 1, Ilara ordered, her voice calm but resolute. The Retribution and its fleet of 500 warships began moving deeper into the galaxy, their advanced propulsion systems leaving no trace of their passage. Phase 1 was simple. Reconnaissance. Map the current political landscape, identify the power players, and locate the descendants of those who had ordered humanity's extinction. Captain, Jackson said, we're detecting a small fleet approaching from Sector 7. Identification marks them as Viridian scouts. Ilara's lips curved into a slight smile. Perfect. Our first contact. Let's make it memorable. The Viridian scout fleet, 10 ships in total, moved cautiously toward the anomalous readings they'd been sent to investigate. Admiral Zaxran had ordered them to maintain distance and observe only. Commander, the lead scout's sensor officer reported, I'm detecting multiple objects ahead, but They're not registering correctly. Our scanners keep shifting between readings. Commander Trelvor frowned. The Viridians prided themselves on their technological superiority. Their sensors were the most advanced in the galaxy. Nothing should be able to confuse them. Visual confirmation, he ordered. The view screen activated, and for a moment, Trelvor thought it was malfunctioning. Where there should have been empty space, hundreds of ships appeared, sleek, deadly, and unmistakably of human design, though far more advanced than anything recorded in the archives. "Impossible," he whispered. A communication request flashed on his console. With trembling fingers, Trelvor accepted it. The face that appeared on the screen was human, female, with short dark hair and cold gray eyes that seemed to look through him rather than at him. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the Earth Fleet," she said, her voice carrying no emotion. "After 300 years, humanity has returned. You will deliver a message to your council. We know what you did. We know who gave the orders. And we have come to collect our debt." Before Trelvor could respond, the transmission ended. The human ships began to move, their formation shifting with impossible precision. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, panic evident in his voice. "They're targeting us." "Evasive maneuvers," Trelvor ordered. "Send emergency transmission tow." He never finished the sentence. The human weapons, technology far beyond anything the Viridians possessed, cut through their shields as if they weren't there. 9 of the 10 scout ships erupted in silent explosions, their crews having no time even to scream. Trelvor's ship, the only one spared, drifted powerless in space, its engines and weapons disabled. Through the viewport, he watched in horror as the human fleet moved past them, heading deeper into Viridian space. They could have destroyed us all," his communications officer said, voice shaking. "Why leave one ship?" "To deliver their message," Trelvor replied, the grim realization settling over him. "They want the galaxy to know they're coming." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest gathering in centuries. Species that had long stood apart from galactic politics and representatives, drawn by the rumors spreading throughout civilized space. Humans had returned. The lone Viridian scout ship's recording played for the assembled dignitaries. Captain Voss's cold declaration echoed through the chamber, sending chills down alien spines. "We know what you did. We know who gave the orders. And we have come to collect our debt." When the recording ended, silence reigned. It was Ambassador Krim who finally spoke. "The humans appear to have advanced considerably during their absence," the Solus representative observed. "Their technology exceeds our current capabilities by an estimated factor of 3 to 5. "How is this possible?" demanded the Illyrian ambassador. "They were a primitive species, barely capable of interstellar travel when we drove them out." An elderly Dorthan rose slowly from his seat at the back of the chamber. Ambassador Thillak was one of the few remaining who had actually fought in the war against humanity. His voice, though weakened by age, carried the weight of experience. "You underestimate them. You always have. That was our mistake 3 centuries ago, and you make it again now." He looked around the chamber, his ancient eyes filled with concern. Humans were never primitive. They advanced faster than any species we had encountered. That was why the council of that era decided they were a threat. "They were expanding too quickly," agreed High Chancellor Preltox. "Taking resources, establishing colonies in disputed territories. And now they've returned," Thillak continued, "with technology that should have taken millennia to develop, not centuries. They've come back not as the species we drove to extinction, but as something far more dangerous." "What do they want?" asked a representative from the Morrican hegemony, one of the newer powers in the galaxy. "Vengeance," Thillak said simply. "They believe we betrayed them. And perhaps we did." The council erupted into argument, accusations flying between species who had participated in the Great Purge and those who had abstained. As the chaos grew, Admiral Zaxran's voice cut through the noise. They've attacked the Viridian colony on Nexus IV. The chamber fell silent once more. Casualties? Asked the Chancellor. None, Zaxran replied, surprise evident in his voice. They evacuated the entire colony, 8 million Viridians, to the neighboring system before destroying all military installations. They left the civilian infrastructure intact. Confusion spread through the council. This was not the behavior of a species bent on genocide. There's more, Zaxran continued. They left a message, text only, broadcast on all frequencies. He read from his datapad. This is not revenge. This is justice. We take only what was taken from us. No more, no less. Ambassador Krim's logical mind worked through the implications. They're recreating the Great Purge. They're going to target the same planets, the same installations that were used against them, but they're avoiding civilian casualties. That makes no sense, said the Alarian ambassador. Why show mercy after all this time? Thillak's ancient voice replied, because they want us to know that they are not like us. They want us to understand that they could annihilate us, as we tried to do to them, but they choose not to. They're showing us their power and their restraint. Admiral Zaxran's communicator chimed. As he checked the message, his scales paled to a sickly gray. They bypassed our outer defenses, he announced, his voice hollow. 50 human ships are on approach to Viridia Prime, our homeworld. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Ilara Voss watched as Viridia Prime grew larger on the view screen. The Viridian homeworld was beautiful, a blue-green jewel orbiting a yellow star, much like Earth had once been. Viridian Defense Fleet is moving to intercept, reported Commander Jackson. 200 ships, standard formation. Ilara nodded. As expected. Open a channel to their command ship. Admiral Zaxran's face appeared on the screen, his scales shifting between black and gray, a sign of both aggression and fear. Human vessel, he began. You are entering sovereign Viridian space. Withdraw immediately or... Admiral, Ilara interrupted calmly. You know you cannot stop us. You've seen what our weapons can do. But that's not why we're here. Zaxran hesitated, clearly unsure how to respond to this direct approach. 300 years ago, Ilara continued, the Viridian High Command cast the deciding vote in favor of the Great Purge. Your ancestors sentenced billions of humans to death. Today we come not for your civilians, not for your colonies, but for justice. What do you want? Zaxran asked, his voice steady despite the circumstances. The archives of the Purge, the complete, unaltered records of who ordered our extinction and why. We know they exist. We know they're stored in your capital city's central database. Zaxran's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. You came all this way for information. Knowledge is power, Admiral, especially when it's been hidden for centuries. Ilara's gray eyes hardened. You have 1 hour to deliver the archives to us. If you comply, we will leave Viridian space and not return. If you refuse, we will take them ourselves. And we will not be as careful about avoiding casualties. The transmission ended, leaving Zaxran staring at a blank screen. He turned to his second-in-command. Contact the Council. Tell them the humans want the archives. His officer hesitated. Sir, those are sealed by the highest authority. No one has accessed them in. I know, Zaxran cut him off. But we have no choice. You've seen what their weapons can do. Our entire fleet couldn't stop even a fraction of theirs. As the message was relayed to the Galactic Council, panic spread. The archives of the Purge contain not just the orders for humanity's extinction, but the true reasons behind them. Reasons that had been hidden from most of the galaxy for centuries. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Thillak spoke quietly to High Chancellor Preltox. If they learn the truth, they won't stop at Viridia. The Chancellor nodded grimly. They'll come for us all. 55 minutes later, a small Viridian shuttle approached the Retribution, carrying the secure data core. As it was brought to the bridge, Ilara felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread. For centuries, humanity had wondered why their former allies had turned against them so suddenly, so completely. Now, they would finally know. Commander Jackson supervised the data transfer, ensuring no hidden viruses or tracking programs were embedded in the files. When he gave the all-clear, Ilara began to review the contents. What she found sent a chill through her body. The Great Purge had not been about territorial disputes or resource competition, as humans had always believed. It had been about fear, fear of what humanity might become. The archives contained detailed genetic studies of humans from before the Purge. Studies that showed something the aliens had discovered that the humans themselves had not yet realized. Humans were evolving at an accelerated rate. Their neural pathways, their cognitive abilities, their adaptive responses, all were changing far faster than any known species. The Galactic Council's secret scientific division had projected that within 5 generations, humans would develop abilities that would make them virtually unstoppable. Telepathy, telekinesis, perhaps even more. They ordered the Purge not to stop human expansion, but to prevent human evolution. And they had failed. Because isolated in the darkness between galaxies, facing the harshest conditions imaginable, humanity had evolved anyway. The very pressure that should have extinguished them had accelerated their development instead. Ilara looked up from the data, meeting Jackson's eyes. "Send this to every ship in the fleet," she ordered. "Everyone needs to know why we were really targeted." As the information spread through the human fleet, a new determination settled over them. This wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about claiming their rightful place in the universe, the place that others had tried to deny them out of fear. "Orders, Captain," Jackson asked. Ilara turned to the view screen, where the Viridian homeworld still hung, beautiful and vulnerable. "Set course for the Galactic Council headquarters," she said. It's time they faced what they created. As the human fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, leaving the Viridian system untouched as promised, a message was broadcast across all frequencies, to every world in the galaxy. "For 300 years, you thought us dead. For 300 years, you built your peace on the bones of our ancestors. That ends today. Humanity has returned, not as the species you tried to destroy, but as the species you feared we would become. We are not here for revenge. We are here for recognition. The galaxy once cast us out. Now it will welcome us home, or face the consequences." Throughout the galaxy, the message was received with growing terror, because the humans hadn't just survived extinction. They had transcended it, and now they were coming to claim what was always meant to be theirs. The reckoning. The Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime had never seen such frantic activity. Representatives from 217 species crowded into the Grand Chamber, their voices creating a cacophony of fear and uncertainty. The news had spread faster than light itself. The humans were coming. High Chancellor Preltox called for order, his ancient voice amplified through the chamber's acoustic system. "We must form a unified response," he declared. "The human threat affects us all." "Threat?" Ambassador Krim of the Solace Collective queried. "They have shown remarkable restraint thus far. No civilian casualties. Minimal infrastructure damage. Their actions are precise and targeted. They've crippled the entire Viridian defense network," countered the Illyrian ambassador. "They've commandeered our long-range communication relays and broadcast their message to every corner of the galaxy. Make no mistake, this is an invasion." Admiral Zaxran, who had been permitted to address the council directly due to the crisis, stepped forward. The Viridian scales had lost their luster, a sign of extreme stress among his kind. "You don't understand what we're facing," he said, his voice low but intense. "I've seen their ships up close. I've witnessed their weapons. They could have destroyed us completely, but they chose not to. That wasn't mercy, it was calculation." "What do you mean?" asked a representative from the Cygnus Federation, one of the younger galactic powers. They're showing us just enough of their capabilities to make us fear them, but not enough to reveal their true strength. Zaxran looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of the oldest members present. They have the archives now. They know why we tried to exterminate them. A hush fell over the assembly. Most of the younger species knew only the sanitized version of history. The humans had been aggressive expansionists who threatened galactic stability. Few knew the real reason behind the Great Purge. "What exactly do these archives contain?" asked the Cygnus representative. High Chancellor Preltox sighed heavily. The time for secrets had passed. 300 years ago, our scientists discovered that humans were evolving. Not in the way most species evolve, over millions of years, but rapidly, within generations. Their neural pathways were reconfiguring. Their genetic code was adapting at an unprecedented rate. Our projections indicated that within 5 generations, they would develop abilities that would upset the balance of power in the galaxy. "What kind of abilities?" someone asked. "Telepathy, telekinesis, enhanced cognitive processing." The Chancellor looked grim. Abilities that would have made them virtually unstoppable. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the chamber. Such abilities were the stuff of myth, not science. So the council of that era ordered their extinction. Preltox continued, not for what they had done, but for what they might become. "And now they've returned," Ambassador Thellock added, his ancient voice carrying the weight of grim realization. "After 300 years of isolation, precisely the 5 generations our scientists feared." The implications settled over the assembly like a shroud. If the projections had been correct, the humans who had returned weren't just technologically advanced, they were evolutionarily transcendent. "We need to form a defense alliance," declared the Illyrian ambassador. "Pool our military resources, coordinate our fleets." "To what end?" interrupted Krim. "If their technology is as advanced as reported, and if they possess these evolved abilities, conventional warfare would be futile." "So we surrender without a fight," demanded an Arcturian general, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "No," said Admiral Zaxran. "We negotiate." All eyes turned to the Viridian admiral. "They could have annihilated my people, but they didn't. They wanted information, not vengeance. That suggests they're rational, that they have objectives beyond simple destruction." "What could they possibly want?" asked the Cygnus representative. Before anyone could answer, the chamber's massive doors swung open. A collective gasp spread through the assembly as a single human figure walked in, unescorted and apparently unarmed. Captain Ilara Voss, her dark uniform a stark contrast to the colorful garb of the alien representatives, strode confidently to the center of the chamber. She carried no visible weapons, wore no protective gear. Her presence, calm, collected, utterly fearless among hundreds of potential enemies, spoke volumes. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said, her voice carrying easily in the stunned silence. "I come as an emissary of Earth." "How did you get in here?" demanded Preltox, recovering from his shock. "This chamber is protected by the most advanced security systems in the galaxy." A small smile played at the corner of Ilara's lips. "Your security systems are impressive, Chancellor. They were among the best in the galaxy 300 years ago." The subtle emphasis on the time frame was not lost on the assembly. It was a reminder of how far humanity had advanced during their exile. "State your purpose, human," Preltox said, trying to regain control of the situation. "I come with a proposal," Ilara replied. "A new accord between humanity and the galactic community. You bypass our defenses, threaten our worlds, and now you speak of accords." The Illyrian ambassador scoffed. Ilara turned to face her directly. "Ambassador Miraloth of Illyria, your great-grandmother cast her vote in favor of the Great Purge. She ordered the destruction of 3 human colony worlds, including New Eden, where 2 million human children were studying." Ilara's gray eyes were cold as steel. "We have not forgotten. But we are offering you something your ancestors did not offer us. A choice." The chamber fell silent again. The precision of Ilara's knowledge, details that hadn't been in the public record for centuries, was chilling. "We've reviewed the archives," she continued, addressing the entire council now. "We understand why you feared us. You discovered our potential before we did. You saw what we might become, and it terrified you." Her voice remained calm, but an undercurrent of steel ran through it. "So you tried to exterminate us. And in doing so, you created exactly what you feared." "What do you want?" asked High Chancellor Preltox, his voice betraying his age and weariness. "Recognition, reparation, respect." Ilara looked around the chamber. "Humanity will take its place in the galactic community once more. We will reclaim the worlds that were once ours. We will be acknowledged as equals. No, as leaders in this new era. And if we refuse?" the Arcturian general challenged. Ilara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, a collective gasp swept through the chamber. Every data screen, every holographic display, every communication device in the room activated simultaneously, displaying the same image. The human fleet, now numbering in the thousands, surrounding Nexus Prime. She hadn't touched anything. She hadn't spoken a command. Yet somehow, she had accessed and controlled every piece of technology in the room with nothing but her thoughts. "That is what you feared, isn't it?" she said quietly. "That we would evolve beyond your comprehension, beyond your control." The display shifted, showing close-ups of the human ships. They were unlike any vessels the Council had ever seen, not just technologically advanced, but seemingly alive, their hulls shimmering with energy patterns that resembled neural networks. "Our ships aren't just machines," Ilara explained, noting the confused looks. "They're extensions of ourselves, controlled not by computers or AI, but by human minds, evolved human minds." Ambassador Krim of the Solace Collective stepped forward, analytical curiosity overcoming fear. "You've developed a biological interface with your technology." "We've transcended the boundary between biology and technology," Ilara corrected. "In our exile, we were forced to adapt, to evolve, to become more than we were. Your ancestors' attempt to destroy us pushed us to become exactly what they feared." The implications weren't lost on anyone in the chamber. Fighting against such a force would be futile. How do you combat an enemy who can control your weapons with their thoughts, who can navigate faster than your targeting systems can lock on, who might even be able to read your battle plans directly from your mind? High Chancellor Preltox slumped slightly in his seat, the weight of 3 centuries of deception and fear finally taking its toll. "What are your terms, Captain Voss?" "First, a formal acknowledgement of the Great Purge as an act of genocide, to be recorded in all galactic histories." Ilara's voice was firm but not vindictive. "Second, the return of all former human territories and colonies, with appropriate compensation for 300 years of lost resources. Third, humanity will take a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, with veto power on all matters of interspecies conflict." Murmurs of protest rose from various corners of the chamber, but they quickly died down as the screen shifted again, showing the human ships moving into even more strategic positions around the planet. "These are not requests," Ilara clarified. "They are the conditions for peace." "You speak of peace while threatening us with annihilation," the Ilarian ambassador accused. "No, Ambassador. I speak of justice while offering you mercy." Ilara's gaze swept the chamber. "We could have returned with vengeance in our hearts. We could have done to you what you tried to do to us. Instead, we offer a new beginning. A chance to build a galaxy where power comes with responsibility, where advancement is not feared but celebrated." The chamber fell into debate, representatives consulting with their governments, arguing among themselves about the best course of action. Through it all, Ilara stood calmly in the center, unmoving, waiting. Finally, High Chancellor Preltox called for quiet. "We will need time to consider these terms, to consult with our respective governments." "You have 24 hours," Ilara replied. I should warn you that any attempt to evacuate Nexus Prime or to bring in additional military forces will be considered a rejection of our offer. With that, she turned and walked toward the exit. Just before reaching the massive doors, she paused and looked back. 300 years ago, you cast humanity out because you feared our potential. You were right to be afraid. But your mistake wasn't in recognizing our potential. It was in assuming we would use it as you would have. Humanity has evolved beyond petty vengeance. We seek not to conquer, but to lead. Not to destroy, but to build. Her gray eyes seemed to look into the soul of every being present. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. Choose wisely. The doors closed behind her, leaving the council in stunned silence. Aboard the Retribution, Commander Jackson approached Captain Voss on the bridge. The council is in chaos, he reported, the ship's sensors allowing them to monitor the deliberations. Some factions are pushing for resistance, others for immediate surrender. Ilara nodded. As expected, they've lived too long with their comfortable lies. The truth is disorienting. Do you think they'll accept our terms? They have no choice, even if some want to fight. Enough of them understand the futility of resistance. She turned to face her second-in-command. Have our people detected any attempt to evacuate or bring in reinforcements? Nothing significant. A few private vessels trying to flee, but no organized evacuation. Good. That suggests at least some level of rational thought still exists in the Council. Ilara moved to the view screen, watching as Nexus Prime rotated slowly below them. Prepare the demonstration. Jackson hesitated. Captain, are you sure that's necessary? They seem to be taking our technological superiority seriously. Technology they can understand. They can imagine countermeasures, develop defenses. What they need to truly comprehend is how far we've evolved. Ilara's expression was resolute. They need to understand that we're not just humans with better ships. We are humanity transcended. Orders were relayed throughout the fleet. 100 ships moved into a precise formation above Nexus Prime's northern hemisphere, positioning themselves equidistant from each other in a perfect sphere. On the planet below, the Galactic Council was still in heated debate when every screen in the chamber suddenly displayed the same image, the human ships in their new formation. What are they doing? Someone asked. No one had an answer, but they didn't have to wait long to find out. Streams of energy, not weapons fire, but something more like living light, began to flow between the ships, connecting them in a complex web. As the council watched in astonishment, the energy expanded, forming a shimmering dome that encompassed the entire fleet. Then, impossibly, the dome began to descend toward the planet. Panic erupted in the council chamber. Was this an attack? Some form of planet-killing weapon? But as the energy field touched Nexus Prime's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. Instead of destruction, there was creation. The barren northern continent, devastated centuries ago by a natural disaster and deemed uninhabitable, began to change. Sensors showed rising oxygen levels, normalized temperatures, restored water tables. Before the astonished eyes of the council, an entire ecosystem was being revitalized in minutes rather than millennia. Ambassador Krim's analytical mind struggled to process what the sensors were telling him. They're terraforming the continent, in real time, with nothing but their minds and their ships. Impossible, whispered the Arcturian general. No species has that kind of power. They do, said Admiral Zaxran, his voice hollow with the realization. This is what our ancestors feared. This is why they tried to destroy humanity before they reached this point. The demonstration continued for an hour. When it was complete, the once dead continent was transformed into a lush, habitable landscape. Forests, lakes, balanced ecosystems, created in the blink of an eye, geologically speaking. A message appeared on all council screens. This is humanity's promise. We can destroy worlds, or we can heal them. The choice of which you witness is yours. The debate ended shortly thereafter. The vote was not unanimous. but it was decisive. The Galactic Council would accept humanity's terms. 1 month later, Captain Ilara Voss stood before the newly reconstituted Galactic Council. The chamber had been redesigned, with Earth holding a position of prominence among the elder races. Representatives from all corners of the galaxy had gathered for this historic moment, the formal reinstatement of humanity in the galactic community. High Chancellor Preltox, still serving in his role but now as an equal rather than superior to the human representative, rose to address the assembly. For 3 centuries, we built our civilization on a foundation of fear and deception, he began, his ancient voice carrying the weight of history. We told ourselves that the Great Purge was necessary, that humanity was a threat that had to be eliminated for the greater good. We were wrong. The Chancellor turned to face Ilara directly. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally acknowledge the crime committed against your species. The attempted genocide of humanity was not an act of defense, but an act of fear, fear of a potential we could not understand or control. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The past month had seen a remarkable shift in the galaxy's power structure. With the truth of the Great Purge now public knowledge, many younger species had aligned themselves with humanity, drawn by the promise of advancement rather than repelled by fear of the unknown. Today, we do not merely welcome humanity back to the galactic community, Preltox continued. We acknowledge their rightful place as leaders in this new era. Their journey, from near extinction to transcendence, offers all species a glimpse of what is possible when we embrace evolution rather than fear it. As the Chancellor concluded his speech, Ilara rose to take her place as Earth's first counselor. The chamber fell silent, all eyes on this representative of the species that had returned from the brink of extinction to reshape the galaxy's future. 300 years ago, she began, her voice steady and clear. Humanity stood alone against the combined might of the galaxy. We were judged not for what we had done, but for what we might become. We were sentenced to death for our potential. She looked around the chamber,